Okay, here we have a new poem. Lots of text here, as you can see. But I managed to squeeze it in to one of these black screens that I'm using. And just if you want to read the Chinese text here, it goes like this. Horizontal lines. I like to just do away with the punctuation because it didn't exist in the original, but usually it's punctuated with like a little comma here after the first line, and then every other line a dot. Which I guess is usually merely conventional, but sort of roughly corresponds usually to the sense units in the original Chinese. Okay, so this poem is called 送孔巢父谢病归游江东兼呈李白. Okay, so there's a guy called Chaofu. Chaofu, such an interesting name. Chaofu. In English we would say nest father. Nest father Kong. Sorry, that's just stupid of me. Okay, so Kong Chaofu was actually a descendant of Confucius, who lived in the Tang Dynasty. I don't know if he's notable for anything else, but Kong Chaofu was a descendant of Confucius. The same the same family name, of course, Kong. And there are still, of course, these people who claim to be descendants of Confucius. Well, why not? I guess they actually keep track of these things. If they have a book saying that a person is actually the descendant of Confucius in the sort of 75th generation, why not trust them? It's awesome. More power to them. Okay, so this guy, he was, what we know of him is that he was apparently a friend of Li Bai, and this poem was written in Chang'an. And from the poem we will see that this Kong Chaofu seems to have shared these Taoist religious aspirations with Li Bai. And it seems that he's going to a place in Jiangdong, east of the Yangtze, this Jiangnan region, where Li Bai also was at the time. So this when the poems this formula occurs in quite a few poems, the titles of quite a few poems are actually Jian Cheng, like here's the subject of the actual poem, and then it's also a little bit for Li Bai. So Jian Cheng Li Bai, also show to Li Bai. And there's a little sort of greeting to Li Bai in the final couplet, which we'll come to. Now we'll just start going through this. Let's waste no more time. This is just such a long poem. Well, it's not super long. We will find that Du Fu has many even longer poems than this. Anyway, so 巢父掉头不肯住，东江入海随烟雾. Chaofu tosses his head. 掉头 tosses his head. It sounds like a horse almost. Well, he shakes his head, I suppose. Unwilling to stay. Oh, and of course, this poem, maybe I didn't mention it. Let's say that first. Okay, so just formally, this is still quite sort of simple formally. It has there's just two lines, and it just goes on like this. So this is a gu shi, I suppose, but it is also sort of close to the ballad format, I think, because the language in this poem is sort of quite colloquial, I would say. It's not super classical. I think it is probably fairly close to the popular idiom of the Tang Dynasty, which makes it sort of, it's actually quite easy to understand. So I hope we won't have to spend too much time on the linguistic intricacies of this one. Anyway, 樵夫掉头不肯住，东江入海随烟雾. 掉头, of course, in Chinese it means turning around, like with a car and stuff. 掉头. So it sounds a little bit strange here, but we have to think away these associations. He shakes his head, tosses his head. He's going to this place he's going into the sea, actually, or into the sea, into the mists of the sea. We have already the feeling that he is not just leaving them on a worldly trip, but he is going on a spiritual journey in the pursuit of Taoist enlightenment. 诗卷长柳天地间，钓竿玉浮珊瑚树. So here we see that Kong Chaofu was also a poet, and a poet that Du Fu thought rather highly of, it seems, or at least he affected to think highly of him. The scrolls of his poems will long remain here between heaven and earth, earth and skies, as he, nothing strange here. And then 钓竿玉浮珊瑚树. So the image here is that he is going away to the sea, and he's going to sit himself down, and he's going to throw his little fishing pole into the sea, and his fishing line and whatever will brush against those trees of coral. Trees of coral, I suppose this just means coral, because coral has like tree-like shapes. So he goes to the sea and leaves the world, but he leaves his poems behind. Very nice. Here's quite an odd couplet. 山山大泽龙蛇远，春寒野阴风景木. This is a bit odd, actually. To deep in the mountains and great swamps, the dragon will go far. I'll just begin by noticing that this 山山大泽龙蛇远, 山山大泽, this phrase occurs in the 左传. That is the commentary, the most famous commentary on the spring and autumn annals. And in the original it says 山山大泽石生龙蛇. So roughly, the deep mountains and great swamps give rise to dragons and snakes. Yeah. So for some reason, Du Fu has just squeezed this little quotation from the 左传 into this poem, and then we have to ask ourselves, what does this mean? What is the dragon here, this 龙蛇? And then in the commentaries to my edition, there seems to they present two versions, two interpretations, and one interpretation is that this 龙蛇 actually refers to Kong Chaofu, and so he goes into the mountains and swamps, and then he will be far away from us then in this situation. They are feasting him because he's going away, and he's a 龙蛇. Why 龙蛇? Then it seems like a strange thing to call a gentleman, a dragon and a snake. And then there is actually a story about Confucius, that he met Lao Tzu, and that he came back and he said that Lao Tzu, he's like a dragon. In what way then? Well, all other swimming things, other flying creatures, there are ways to catch with nets and arrows, but not the dragon. So this is a sort of metaphor for a spiritually enlightened man you cannot get a hold on. Yeah, so that's the one interpretation. But yeah, I'm not sure actually, because the other interpretation I think is perhaps a little bit more plausible. It might also mean that he goes into the Shenzhen Dazi, the deep mountains and great swamps, and the dragons and snakes keep off from him. They stay far away from him, yuan, because then presumably of his immortal bones, as it says later in this text, his xiangu, he belongs in the Shenzhen Dazi with them, so these dragons and snakes, they will not harm him. And then 春寒野阴风景木, yeah, spring's chill among wilderness shadows, the scene will turn to evening. Honestly, I think this couplet is still a bit strange, because here Stephen Owen apparently seems to think that this second line refers to the present situation where the poem is written, but I think it's quite strange, because the previous couplet was about the place, about Kong Chaofu and the place he's going, and then it starts off here and seems to be also about the place where he's going, and then it continues in the next couplet also with the travel of Kong Chaofu. So why would this line refer to the present situation with the seeing off party that the poem is written in. I think it just seems a little bit odd. So this might also just refer to sort of it might refer to the general situation at the time, but also be a part of Du Fu's sort of visualization and imagining of the travels of Kong Chaofu. Anyway, a bit odd, I would say still. We sort of really can't get a hold on this couplet, a bit like Confucius couldn't get a hold on Lao Tzu. Then we go here, and I think this couplet is just worth the price of admission for this poem. I love this. 蓬莱之女回云车，指点虚无是真路. And it's just so nice, colloquial, simple, and it just flows off your tongue like that. It's just a beautiful couplet. Of course, let's go into this language-wise as well, because it might not be obvious. The weaver woman of Penglai. Penglai, of course, is one of the mythical mountains in the Eastern Oceans, which occurs like in every single poem of the Tang Dynasty. You should understand this reference, or at least I'll help you to do it if you don't. 织女 is actually a star. 织女, the weaver woman. And it says in my comments that this star governs the region where Kong was going, which is, I guess, nice to know. There was this idea in ancient China that various regions on Earth corresponded to regions in the sky. And the funny thing here is that Du Fu, I think he seems to be mixing myths here, because Zhi Nu, the weaver woman, she doesn't usually live on Penglai. She lives up in the sky and at the edge of the Milky Way. But here she's Kong's guide on the road to Taoist immortality, I suppose. She points off into the emptiness. This is the road you must take. 这是你的真路，这点虚无是真路. Wonderful stuff. 自是君身有仙骨，世人哪得知其故?哪得, here we have really sort of, this is colloquial. Of course, this is not just the classical formulation. 自是君身有仙骨. He has immortal bones. That is, he has the bones of an immortal, he has the destiny of an immortal, he has the bearing, the nature of a person who will reach Taoist sainthood. So, when we stupid people of this world, 世人, ask ourselves, why is Kong Chaofu treading the road of emptiness into the wilderness of dragons and snakes? Well, we can just say, well, people of the world would never understand things like this. 世人哪得知其故? 知其故 understand the reason for this. We go on. 惜君只欲苦死流，富贵何如草头露? 惜君, not wanting to lose you, yes. 只欲苦死流. This 苦死 is also not classical. This is a Tang Dynasty colloquialism, and it means basically 拼命. In modern Chinese, we would say 拼命, like do our utmost to do anything. So, not wanting to lose you, we only give our all to make you stay. Exactly. 惜君只欲苦死流，富贵何如草头露? How can riches and honor? He's very literal here, Stephen Owen. Of course, what it means is, well, we perhaps want you to stay, and perhaps you have a possibility to become rich and famous in this life, but riches and honor to a Taoist saint is less worth than dew upon the grass, that is nothing. 蔡侯敬者亦有余，清夜置酒临前处. So 蔡侯, this is presumably the Mr. Cai who arranges the farewell party, the host, and he is described here as a 敬者, a man serene. that is, it's a person who knows the way of calm acceptance, one might say. And I think it should be contrasted here with the other guys in the company who want to just keep 孔巢父 to themselves, 苦死留，把拼命要让他留下来。No, 蔡侯 is not like that. He's a 敬者 and he's 亦有余. Ample concern for you. I'm not sure that is exactly the idea here. It is the 亦有余 is a description of the 敬者. The calm person is one who means more than he expresses. That his meaning goes beyond his words. 亦有余. There's always more meaning than you can see. In a clear night, sorry. 清夜置酒临前处. Yeah, nothing strange here. In the clear night, he has ale served. Alcoholic drinks. Wonderful. Looking out over the porch. 临前处. 处 is stairs or steps. 罢琴惆怅月照兮，即岁寄我空中书。罢琴, the music stops. When the music is over, when the playing is over, disconsolate the moonlight shines on the mats. Yeah, we all have it in the translation here. 几岁? How long from now? Yeah, how many years from now will you send me, or send us, I suppose, a letter through the sky? Well, what does this mean, actually? So, the 空中书, there are these stories of lots of stories, actually, of Taoist saints and their various miraculous communications with the world of men. And a common theme is that they arrive through the air, they leave objects behind in the air, and they also write letters through the air. So that is what a 空中书 is. So when will you write me or us a letter from your enlightened or immortal future state? That is what it means. Or perhaps in more worldly terms, hope we will hear from you soon, buddy. And then here we have the last couplet, and here it mentions Li Bai again. 南巡语学见李白，到府问心，今何如? Yu Xue is a cave in the area where Kong Chaofu was going, and this is said to be the place where the mythical emperor Yu died. So it is also connected with the Taoist religion for this reason. So in the south, when you go to find the cave of Yu and you see Li Bai, just please tell him that me, Fu, Du Fu, asks about you and says 今何如? Wonders how he is now. Yeah, and also perhaps not just how he is in general, but also what is his state of Taoist enlightenment, perhaps. Because it certainly sounds in this poem as if one saint goes to meet another. Yeah, that's all of it. Kind of a nice little poem, and I think it's the first real song poem that I've had the pleasure to analyze together with you. There are, of course, many, many song poems in the Dufu catalogue, as with all other poets ever in the Chinese tradition. So, yeah, not a bad one, taken all in all. Thank you for listening.